After lunch is always a very interesting session. So we have here 4 speakers and 2 will be online. We'll start the session with the Dato Eng, and then we move to the other speakers. But let me just go through the topics of today. It is a BPO and global services is a emerging sectors. It is a very key sectors, and in many parts of the world, it become a catalyst for economic transformation. And more so in Asia, for the last many years, it is a new growth area. And we will be discussing what are the emerging trends, has been the key success factor. As the minister said this morning that MDEC was set up 20 years ago or more, and I think it has evolved into major centers for BPO and shared services. And with MSC dispersed to other part of the country like Penang and all this thing, we have seen a more dispersal strategy for the BPO sectors. So I have probably the detailed biodata of the speakers are all in the series, but let me just go through the sequencing of the session today. Maybe the best thing is to start with Dato Eng first, because she probably will give the macro picture of where BPO is today and where she feels is moving forward in the next few years. And to a certain extent, the COVID-19 has been a major, actually upended many of the sectors. Not only the airline or the hotel, but also the BPO has also been impacted by those COVID-19. Then we will have Anthony probably will Anthony has quite a good experience in the BPO, being a CEO and also a part of outsourcing Malaysia, I guess. And then followed by Shankar, who based in Penang, and more a KPO sectors, knowledge processing outsourcing. Very interesting new emerging sectors in life sciences. And then the fourth will be Shareen, and she will be also doing virtual and talking about probably focusing on talent management. So I'd like to invite Dato Eng to start the session, and we have around 8 minutes for each panel, and then later on, we will have a question-answer session followed by any other question from the floor. So over to you, Dato Eng. We can't hear yet.
All right. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Hamzah, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I can't be there because I want to make sure that everybody is safe. Unfortunately, yesterday I met somebody who met with BPM, so I just want to make sure that everybody is safe, and I want to break the chain should there be any issue. So for today, I would like to cover a number of areas concerning the GBS in Malaysia. I'll start by sharing a bit of Malaysia's GBS landscape and also the achievement that Malaysia has done over the past 16 years. A little bit of numbers because people may like to know about numbers, and some examples of how the GBS company in Malaysia has moved up the value chain, and more numbers about why GBS is important for Malaysia in terms of salary, revenue, as well as the jobs created. And even though with all these interesting things, there are always challenges. So I will end with some of the challenges and to set the stage for more discussion. So to start, Malaysia, we have been consistently ranked by AT Kearney's report. They have a something Global Services Location Index. Since 2004, Malaysia has always been ranked number 3 behind India and China. This is not an easy position to to maintain, considering Malaysia is a mid to small size country. So you will ask why we consistently rank. That's because Malaysia has certain advantages that attract the investment. We are multicultural, multilingual, and also digitally skilled as far as talent is concerned. Shareen can talk a little bit more about that. And location-wise, we are very competitive, especially cost effectiveness and also the mature tech infrastructure that Malaysia has. That also helped us during the COVID pandemic, especially during the March-April timeframe when the country's gone into the lockdown and many other people cannot work. But Malaysia consistently been able to support. Malaysia is always business friendly and have very supportive government when it comes to supporting companies who want to operate here. And we have also a vibrant lifestyle that attracts and retains local and foreign talent. These four factors have made Malaysia rank third since 2004. That's 16 years in the row. And we started with maybe more entry level, if you can recall, a lot of call center, low entry level BPO. We continue to have that, but what is more important is we are moving towards value-driven GBS, global business services, going beyond back office operations such as IT, finance, accounting, HR, legal, procurement, to more advanced, digitally enabled, and also insight-driven services such as data analytics, cybersecurity, engineering, R&D. But not to say that we don't do those back office. We still are very strong in those. But what is important is we need to be able to offer end-to-end, and that is what Malaysia has been able to develop for the past 15 years. And today, the government has viewed the GBS industry as a key focus area to create more jobs for Malaysians as one of the measures to tackle socio-economic impact of COVID-19. So some of the achievement you may want to be interested to find out that the GBS industry in MSC has been having a steady investment growth over the past years. Number of active GBS companies is about 20% of close to the 3,000 total active MSC status companies in the year 2019. And even though it's 20% of the total number of 3,000 companies, that's around 580 companies. The growth of companies has contributed approximately 50% of the investment in 2019. And 41% of total revenue plus 66% of total export. So you can see that GBS contributed a lot, even though the number of companies is 20%. And also 60% of total jobs in MSC is actually contributed by the GBS company in the year 2019. And if you want to know the breakdown of the MSC companies, we still have majority of them in the IT or outsourcing, followed by BPO, and we are seeing that KPO is increasing, but it still have room to grow. And in terms of the captive of outsourcing, mainly outsourcing, about 75%, and the other 25% are from the captive sector. And FDI is bigger than DDI. This is a very unique situation because most of the companies, if you look at other sectors, mainly are local companies, but where GBS is concerned, you see more FDI than DDI. That also shows that Malaysia is very attractive where foreign investment is concerned. And I also mentioned that I'll share some examples. Just want to show that many companies were started early, they have moved out the value chain. For one thing, Standard Chartered GBS, they have moved from ITO to KPO. And if you drive along this, around the highway, you will see something. They have a center called Collective Intelligence and Command Center that is servicing the global customer. It's staffed with a lot of software engineers, incident managers, operations specialists. But of course, they continue to do other things like the ITO as well. The other one is Shell. Shell Business Operation in KL has moved from BPO to KPO. And today, the SSO, the SBO of Shell Business Operation in KL is home to 11 different functions that support Shell within the Southeast Asia, Oceanic, and Middle East region. The other example is LEK, Malaysia. They are 100% in the KPO space. So there are more and more multinational coming to Malaysia and using Malaysia talent to help them with their KPO operation. And GBS is actually paying very well. A lot of people may not know. They thought it's a great graveyard shift and then just BPO. But just for your information, the GBS industry in MSC Malaysia group of companies pays employees average salary about 7,000 per month. And then the entry, or maybe you'll say that the BPO pay less, not much less actually, it's about 6,800. And ITO pays around 7,200. Every salary for KPO is about 12,000 per month. So as you can see, it's actually a very good career move for people who have interest to look at GPS as a career of choice. The average revenue per employee for BPO is about 180,000 per year. And for ITO, it's about 250,000. And for KPO, it's about 450,000. So as you can see, this is a very good growth area for everyone. But having said all these things, there's still various challenges faced by GBS player in Malaysia. For instance, to get corporate buy-in to deliver more high-value GBS activities from Malaysia is still something we have to work hard. For those who are in Malaysia, they know, but those who are outside of Malaysia, they may not know. So that's what we need to do more. So how MDEC has been driving this? We have created a platform for industry, best practice knowledge sharing by industry players, encourage a peer-to-peer learning. Example, the focus group for the different GBS sector. Financial services can be one of it, oil and gas can be another. And also, we do more site visits, facilitate site visits to companies and work hand in hand with their Malaysian entity to build value proposition to their corporate office. This is really important. Seeing is believing. Apart from, for asking the country manager to continue to tell the good story about Malaysia. And MDEC also, for those high value customers, we have dedicated client management team to ensure the GBS companies continue to grow and expand in Malaysia. This is really, really important. Apart from that, access to immediate and sustainable talent pipeline is very important. So what we have done is that we need to start to build end-to-end. K-12, we have My Digital Maker movement. For tertiary sector, we have Premier Digital Tech Institution, Glow and University. For professional and latent talent, we launched something called My Digital Workforce. So, and also like Let's Learn Digital with Coursera. We also work together with HRDF during Penjana initiative. These are all important things to continue to build the talent pipeline to serve the needs of the GBS industry. So even during the COVID-19, we have played a critical role in helping all the investors in Malaysia. And as a result of working together, we have since many of them decided to expand their operation. That's because the communication channels are always open between industry players and government. Now that the second wave is coming, I think we have to continue to focus in ensuring our investors that Malaysia has the right support to help them to grow their business here. And I think that's some of the sharing that I have. I look forward to more discussion and questions from the audience later. Thank you, Dato Dr. Hamzah.
Thank you, Dato. Okay, that's probably you remain there for a while we finish the next. And Anthony will take us to more looking at some of from the industry perspective, where the BPO is heading and what are some of the challenges we are facing. Over to you.
Thank you, Dato. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to speak just after Dato Peng, because he's given a stage from how MDEC is supporting overall the industry. So I'm speaking on behalf of OM, formerly known as Outsourcing Malaysia, which is part of PIKOM, the National Tech Association. And the idea is to give you an awareness about where we started from, where we are at right now, and where we are heading. So in 2006, Austin, Texas, is where we launched Outsourcing Malaysia. So it's a good history to share with you how it started off and how we expanded our business thereafter, and reaching now today at about 8.1 billion US dollar revenue as an industry. We have about 600 plus companies, earlier Dato pointed out, and we are supporting 50 languages across all the disciplines of functions and services. And no wonder we are ranked number 3 continuously, in spite of a tough race to be part of AT Kearney, right? Now, a little bit of introduction from an industry perspective. We have about 150 members in OM, and both combination of multinationals, local large firms, and local firms. So it gives you a perspective of how the industry distribution is taking place, employing just shy of 200,000 people in the market, and probably the fastest growing industry in terms of hiring, as well as in terms of resilience. Now, why? Let me justify that from the industry side. Number one, when COVID hit our shores, the first thing was GBS Industries back office operations, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Now, everything was pretty much dependent on BPO, or commonly known as the outsourcing providers, business process outsourcing firms. GBS are captive, or the global business services, and the digital GBS firms. They switched on. Almost all of them were ready the following day in terms of support. That is work from home, right? Now, as we move forward, is this going to be normal for companies in terms of continuity, business continuity? Yes, we need to be prepared, especially with the next wave coming up. The trend is readiness to work from home and to be able to support all the functions. And earlier this morning, our chairman, Ghani, was talking about essential services, chairman of PIKOM, the National Tech Association. I think if you recall, the first country which pushed for this essential services for GBS was Philippines, and they got approved. Unfortunately, we are yet to get that status, and I hope that we should be able to get that status, Dato. The second part I want to share with you is from a digitization perspective. So the first one was from an industry perspective. Second is digitization perspective. From a traditional BPO operator, contact centers, back office functions, we are moving into the digital functions. And that also means that we need to have ready infrastructure and ready talent. So these two play an important role to make ourselves attractive. And what I mean by making ourselves attractive, if we are number 3, and if we need to stay number 3 or improve number 3 to number 2 or 1, we need to make sure we are globally competitive. We are recognized for it, but however, in terms of awareness for this industry, for employability, for infrastructure, and for industry support, we are still lagging. And I hope that we should be able to get the support in all these 3 areas so we can support all this across the society. The third area I just wanted to touch upon is talent. And I know that other speakers will be speaking about it, but why talent? Because this is a labor-intensive function or the role. Back office is pretty much related to labor. But I wanted to talk to you about something different. With the introduction of digitization, there's something called RPA, or robotic process automation. And I'm sure all the bankers in this room are already on it. The rest of you are, if not, you'll be already starting to think about how to automate your process, but using technology to activate that. But that doesn't mean we are going to displace workers or employees. It's about using the bots that can help ensure that we're able to complement and drive the services for any industry. The biggest users are probably the banking and financial services, but not forgetting telecommunication and the rest as well. All the leading industries in Malaysia, right? So I'm introducing the term, I mean, highlighting the term, I would say, called cobots. That means we're talking about a human being with the bot, which is able to support this initiative as we drive. So having to upskill a talent who's ready to make sure that they're able to function in this role is going to make our position more competitive, drive our industry further, and of course the objective is to make Malaysia more attractive for the GBS investments, talent more attractive to choose that, because currently I think Dato was Shankar, you were earlier speaking, it's not a sexy career, unfortunately. So we want to create it, make it more attractive to the new generation to consider GBS and BPO and digital GBS as a career of choice. So with that, back to you, Dato.
Thank you, Anthony. Now pass over to Shankar.
Thank you, Dato. So my name is Shankar and the VP for Clarivate. We are probably one of the newest partner in Malaysia. So our company is based out of Philadelphia, and right now we have decided to set up a GBS in Penang. We started our operations in August, and we are very excited with the transformation that we'll be leading towards the GBS for Clarivate. So Clarivate is an organization which I would say an industry of the future, very much into advanced analytics, so a smaller umbrella of big data. We are very much focused in life sciences and intellectual property. So it's quite a niche industry, for Malaysia. I'm very proud to have been associated with Clarivate because again, most of our customers, researchers across the world, university lecturers, governments, and organizations. So it is something, we are in an industry where we will serve our customers so that they will be able to ensure that they get solutions for the most complex issues that each organization or researchers are facing. So as I've mentioned, we started our operations in Penang. We were fortunate because in Penang, we do have more than 60 over GBS, more than 300 over multinationals. So the talent pool was basically there. But again, if you look at advanced analytics, the kind of environment that we would like our the focal talent management team, that is something that we need to put more effort. As you're aware, we are very much into KPO. We need very knowledge workers. Potentials are there, but we need to make sure that we get the right capability, the right individuals who has high employability index that will be able to survive in our kind of environment. So one of the things that I would like to share with regards to how our GBS should be positioned to be successful. And this is something that I think that we will be able to sustain. I know we are now number 3 behind India. The good news is I think we were doing a great pitch, obviously with MDEC and Invest Penang to our investors to say that Malaysia still do have the talents, and due to that, I mean there was so much of they realized the investors realized that there was so much of opportunities in Malaysia that they decided to close one of one of their main operations in India and move it to Malaysia. And this is something, this is how I think we should position ourselves, that we want to upscale and bring more knowledge workers to the organization. So what some of the key success metrics that we think that would be very important for GBS is the ability to work in an agile environment. Agility is something very core, right? Every individual that need to be functioning in a GBS need to be very comfortable with agility. Change is constant. We need to be able to understand what's the market demands, be ahead of the curve. Like I said, that the kind of customers that we deal with are highly intellectual, and the people that we need to hire them, they need to have very strong domain expertise. I'm just giving an example where we need to hire customer service. If everyone think about customer service, just basic, just delighting customers. But a customer service person in Clarivate, I would say, is more of a customer engineering specialist, right? With their domain expertise, with their knowledge, they are required to provide solutions. That is why when you talk about GBS, we are no longer talking about the traditional GBS where we talk about finance, HR, shared services. That's quite common. But we want to move into an environment where we will be able to provide and enhance solutions to our customers. So that's where we are moving towards by using data analytics, right? So agility is something very critical. And when you're into an advanced analytics environment, you will be exposed to a number of digitalization, right? A number of AIs. And these are just tools to help. They don't provide solutions. We need the expertise to be able to connect the dots, and the ability to then provide the solutions to the employees, to the customers, right? We have a function in Penang that we've started up called, we call that the patent translations, right? So we have hundreds of patents that need to be translated, right? Some from English to Mandarin, Arabic to English, English to Arabic, and so on and so forth. And those translations are just not, you just can't do that through a Google translation. You may have, we have multiple AIs that helps with the translation, but we all know that AIs are never perfect, right? And that's where we need the human intervention to see whether those translation make sense. And we need to hire the best folks to be able to have accurate translation, because that is going to be the final outcome to the customers. And when we do have our recruitment, we are very stringent in the people that we hire. They go through assessments. Passing mark is about 85%. Many people just give up, right? But the reason being is because we need to have people who have that intellectual capacity to be able to use their knowledge that they have acquired in the university, and the ability, and if they have experience, the ability to connect the dots and see whether whatever that has been done in the AI actually makes sense, right? So this is just a very small layman example, right? So I think making sure that we are very much ahead in terms of the digitalization world is very important, and individuals, universities will need to find opportunities where we should be able to expose students and future workers into the digitalization world through partnership with the organizations or with the government. The other thing that I've always emphasized about is when we move roles to Malaysia, whenever I speak to the CEO, I say that we want to be a company that has best value. Obviously, when you talk about best value, it just doesn't come. It's not only about cost. It's about capability. It's about potentials. It's about deliverables. We need to be bold enough to be in comparison with anyone across the world, and that's how we built our dashboards. Right? Someone in Malaysia, what's the cost per patent for someone in Malaysia? What's the cost for patent for someone in UK? What's the cost for patent for someone in US? That's how we will be able to enhance our competitive edge. We are running a business, cost is important, but how we will be able to sustain it is the quality of the work, the capability, and the potentials. No doubt India can be much cheaper, but again, at the end of the day, when it comes to sustainability, I think we have seen quite a number of researchers that shows that Malaysia has the ability for sustainability. So being a center of best value is something very critical. I know we're a startup this year. One of the strategies that we are looking at is we are going to be starting up, building the company registration, working with all the government agencies, talent management for this year. Next year is moving towards a center of excellence, where all the functions that we have brought in, which is tier 1 related, we want to make sure that we bring in the entire tier 1 to tier 3 under one umbrella, right? And when we do that, number one, decisions are made faster, we are much more efficient, and speed is critical in terms of what customers are looking forward. And then in the third year, it's a center of expertise. So when we talk about center of expertise, it's to bring in the entire ecosystem under one umbrella, right? Because a lot of functions are interrelated. So when we focus on being a center of expertise, that's where we will be able to provide opportunities for our employees. We'll be able to provide greater solutions to our customers, and customer experience is something hard and core for our organization. Right? So that is pretty much in terms of customer experience. Next is one of the things that we envisioned when we started up the Global Business Center is every time we start up, it's all about moving the business, moving the operations. We need to move away from the fact about being in a follower mindset, right? As we continue to build our expertise, we need to look into simplification, automation, and eventually be the heart of where best practices are being done. We have done that because we have the expertise, we have the capability, we have the knowledge. How could we do things in a more simple manner so that it becomes easier for us to do our job, and at the same time it'll be easy for customers to reach out to us to get their solution. So simplicity is something very critical, and we can also make sure that we become the center of where best practices can be done. And that's how we can continue to be sustainable. So that's in a nutshell in terms of the kind of value that we want to provide and how we measure success. Talent is going to be very critical. We have been partnering with a couple of universities to see how industry and universities can partner ahead of time. I know that to a certain extent, our government has been working through upskilling of people who are already working. I know we do have Penjana right now that are looking at fresh graduates, but this effort should actually even start from day one, year one students itself, right? I remember having conversations with some year one students. We had a webinar with one of the local university, about 100 over students coming in. First year, even having that industry exposure in terms of what are we looking for? What's the industry all about? What skill sets, what capabilities are we looking at, right? So that we prepare them ahead of time, provide them with the mindset in terms of what the industry is looking forward, so that they have the 3 to 4 to 5 years, whatever that they're spending in the universities, to ensure that they are employable, right? And this is where I think the government agencies can play a very vital role to build that capability way ahead, right? I know we do speak a lot about it, but I think, as a country, we can definitely do that much better with greater collaboration between the government agencies, the industries, and the universities. Talent is going to be critical. One of the things that I personally have observed is the kind of skill sets that we want to hire for the industry of the future, compared to our competitor like India, we are probably like maybe 5-10 years behind. There need to be a quick catch-up opportunity so that we can go ahead of the curve. Capabilities are there. It's quite surprising, right? When we started our hiring, so far we've hired close to about 95 folks. 30% of them, surprisingly, 30% of them are fresh graduates. We did not anticipate that. We did not want to compromise our requirement and quality, but that shows that there's this 30% of the fresh graduates, they actually meet industry standards in terms of supporting the niche market, right? Communication, knowledge. And so I'm really proud, right? I'm really proud to see those kind of fresh graduates joining us. And I was like, we have folks, probably 70% of them from local university, but folks from Harvard, Oxford, Princeton. All these folks are all here, highly intellectual, highly motivated. I hope they know what industry they're coming for. But I think it's a good opportunity to breed, to continue to breed this, right? And then we have about 30% of them who are retrenched workers, who are people who have just who have been let off, in their current roles. It's good to to be giving back to the country back again, to provide that opportunities, and the remainings are actually those people with skill sets. But I have to admit that we go through a lot of pain, right? We started up the patent translation team. We had to screen through more than 300 over folks to hire about 15 individuals, right? It's really, really tough, right? But I think, like I said, if you just look at statistics, the numbers are there. What is missing is really the requirements that are needed for the industry. That little element is missing, and that's where I think the industry university partnership is so critical at the core. I have lots to share, but we'll share during the next one.
Okay, thank you, Shankar. Okay, that's a bit of introduction on KPO because a lot of people are not familiar with KPO. As you know, the way BPO started is from, this move to business process and now to KPO. Okay, now over to Shareen. She's online. Probably we can have her on the line now.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I will try to keep to time because I know we have more time for Q&A later. What I'd like to do is actually show some slides. It gives us some visual cues about some of the things that we've talked about. And of course, in my former role, I was the talent champion for the country, and we all are, and I continue to do that. So let me bring out my slide, and then we can start. So give me a minute. Okay. Here we go. So yeah, I'd like to talk about more broader sort of concepts and then sort of zero in into GBS. Agility in the workforce, it's actually the next normal. The new normal is today, what we are actually experiencing. And how do we look at the challenges that we are addressing? At the end of the day, it's about growing jobs for economic growth. Let's look at an agile workforce model as the sort of new way of how we engage talent and how we work. We need to address the social safety nets and wealth creation for the people who work in our companies, and really looking at the more efficient way on how we close the mismatch of talent and jobs with more predictive supply and demand analytics. Shankar was talking earlier about how do we match it. So instead of interviewing so many people, we use automation, or we use technological solution or tech-enabled solution to actually close that gap and make it more efficient and effective. And time is of the essence. At the end of the day, it's also the optimal resourcing, right talent and the right jobs, increasing efficiency and productivity. When we look at these trends and, we talk about digitalization, and I wanted to show this slide because that's kind of, to me, how the economic construct has been moving. We talk about circular economy, the issue of sustainability of the planet. We think about sustainability of ourselves as, human beings. Of course, digital economy and the role of MDEC and all that. But when you look at all the different sort of economic construct, at the end of the day, it's about people that's driving the changes and driving the sort of the move towards this economy, the sharing economy. So there's a lot of GBS, BPO solutions that underpins these, economic growth or economic construct. And the gig economy is something that I'm very passionate about in my role today as the co-founder of Sorga Innovation, and our solution gigxglobal.com is flexible jobs, tapping on latent talent and looking at how we unlock that value. The earlier speakers spoke about this as well. How prepared are we? If you look on the right side, that's the talent segments, millennials, Gen X, even the baby boomers are ready to work on demand. So that's kind of a new, not so new, but it's a revolutionary way of looking, looking at work and how, like I said earlier, we engage talent in a different way. On the left side is readiness for companies. So the data is 2018, but if we look at today, accelerated sort of situation that we're in with the pandemic, these numbers will surely show a different picture. But in 2018, companies are already saying that, in the next 5 years, they're going to look at 40% of their workforce is coming from, the independent fractional work talent. And then today, 56% say that they need the agile workforce model to augment or to complement the kind of workforce that they have right now. And I give you a scenario of, say, if you want to go digital, you want to move into an e-commerce kind of role, and your business was built in a very traditional way. How do you then accelerate that adoption, or how do you accelerate the change in your strategy? It's actually looking at professionals who are already ready to go, plug and play, and actually move that strategy for you because they have the expertise. And and the gig economy or the fractional work model work in tandem with this. I just wanted to give you a bit of context in terms of who are the people in the gig economy, we always think that is the right sharing, you know, our delivery guys who do such great service for us, and we feel it more even today. They are actually at the dark green zone. So 18%, 11% and all that, depending on the different markets that I'm showing you in this slide. But look at where the red box is and the darker gray, that shows professionals who work on demand. So it's a high and increasing number of professionals that are in the mix within this gig economy, but we couch it as fractional work more so than, you know, transactional work. And why? I think businesses, the benefits for businesses are obvious. Adoption of an agile workforce, but it's slow and mainly due to policy and cultural barriers, but there is evidence to show that it increases in output. So how does the GBS sector actually use an agile workforce model to increase your output and, you know, cost and experience the cost reduction, because it's all about efficiency for the GBS sector. And you know, you get higher increased output because the professionals who work on demand, they're very specific on the projects that they do. And I like Shankar's model of the K economy, the K BPO, you know, the knowledge outsourcing, because then that's where, you know, we move up the value chain. The last bit I wanted to actually trigger some discussion, and these are the last two slides that I have, is that, you know, the data that's coming through, and I'm just using Perkeso or SOXO data to show what kind of jobs are available and what kind of, you know, sectors that are showing loss of job during this time of pandemic. We don't see the GBS sector being featured as a key sector. So the visibility of GBS, the visibility of what, you know, the sector is doing doesn't feature, and there's no, like, you know, a job category that's very obvious. So this is where I think when we look at talent and trying to attract talent into this, the sector, the understanding of what it's, the sector does and where it's moving, and really at the policy level and how we categorize jobs and all that, it's not very clear. So how do we improve that so that then, you know, people are, the awareness is higher because they belong into a job category that's very obvious. And, you know, and has, you know, is anchored in a sector that is actually driving a significant part of our economy, but it's not, you know, very visible. It's buried in maybe professionals, it's buried maybe in other services. So how do we unpack that so that we can show that there is value and there's opportunities, and the data also shows this is where the sector is going. So this is some of the questions that I have that perhaps we can all sort of find a way to actually do a bit more thinking through on how we profile the GBS sector and how we actually look at the talent, because in the future, people will converge towards a professional group. You belong to a certain profession, you belong to the engineering profession, we know that already, and other sort of professional groups are coming together, but you don't necessarily belong to an organization. So how do we categorize that jobs that delivers on the GBS sector, and working through that and making it more visible is where I would like to end, and then happy to take questions and have more discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shareen. Nancy Michael Yo, whenever, you know, he invited to question me to moderate, I cannot say no, but this is after many years that Jean knows me, and I've come back to moderate this question. But this is an interesting part of the session. I like to, you know, everybody to really, you know, probably recall the early speech by KJ this morning. I was in the Ministry of Science in 1995 during when MDEC was first formulated. Then I left the government to join 3 global companies in management consulting, and also currently wear many hats as chairman of a bank and some of those things. I want to go back to the scenario that KJ was saying, that, you know, MDEC started 20 over years ago with a very strong vision to transform the whole economy from a labor cost-intensive industry to a knowledge-based industry. Fast forward today, what his message is that we squandered 20 years. We were the the lead agencies among in the countries, around the region, to really drive MDEC to become the real catalyst for economic transformation. Fast forward, if we look where we are today, is extremely disappointing. We're still a low labor cost economy. We have stagnant wages. A lot of our graduates are still unemployed. Wages starting around 1,002 or 1,008. And if you look at the number of workforce we have in the BPO, it's only 200,000. It's a very tiny amount out of 12 million workforce. So which is a very bleak scenario that we have today. If you look at the Fitch Solutions yesterday, economic forecast for Malaysia the next 10 years is 3.5%. And I'm quite happy to say that the government today has set up the sort of a digital economy task force to look at this, because if we don't do things drastic, we basically will end up continue to decline our economic performance. So the BPO, although it looks like the view from the AT Ghani, sometimes we get distorted, although we are sometimes we use some of this this research, but the actual situation is that we have not been able to grow as fast as we should. Now, my question to the panel today is that how do we do things differently in the next few years, knowing that the government is trying to transform the economy. When I was member of the Economic Council, 10 years ago, we were building the new economic model, and we thought that 2020 is going to be, we're going to move to an advanced nation around 14,000 GDP per capita. We are not able to do that. 2020 is this, and now we're looking for something more magical solution to really be a strong catalyst. So we look at BPO as global services. If you were asked to, you fast forward today, we have not been able to move as fast as, the competitors. Like we see growing competition around the region. China has become a major player, India, of course, and, we have Vietnam and other countries, catching up, even in the Eastern Europe. So now my question to the panel is, if you are asked to serve the Economic Task Force today, and give them 3 really big recommendations so that we can really, grow BPO to become a major contributor to the economy and, more employment, maybe have around 800 to 1 million workforce in BPO. Is scaling up, what is our problem and challenges of scaling up this thing? Of course, these are FDIs. How do we invite, greater relocation? The opportunities we have is COVID today is that, it's all disrupted in the BPO, in the sense that companies are now looking at the risk of having single location in India or in China, because when you have things like this, you find that, you want to diversify your risk. But let me just stick this question about what we can do things differently the next few years, taking opportunity about the changing landscape and distraction, because we cannot do the old things again, because it does not work, because we have invested in MDEC, Savajaya. We don't see the desired outcome, but it's only some incremental, but we still have not seen major dramatic change in our economic structure. So can we address this, in terms of, can we do differently, more drastic measures? What should we do? So I open this question to Dato first, because she's in MDEC.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I think the Dato Hamzah, you touch on many areas. So from the MSc, for the comment from the minister, to the role of BPO and how we can change the contribution, maybe how we drive the BPO to where we have not been able to achieve what we are set out to do. So maybe I start by addressing some of the concern and comment made by the minister this morning about whether MSc has achieved its target. If you can recall, because all of us who has been here since almost day one, will remember that when MSc as a concept was introduced, it was about providing Malaysia as a test bed and helping to transform our industry economy from production economy into information-based economy. So we can look at it from a different angle. We started with 300 small trading companies trading to today we have thousands of companies either creating their own IPs to providing solutions that is enjoyed by some of the global customers. We can't say that we did not do what we have done. BPO has never been the only area. In fact, BPO started, or GBS started, those that we call it SSO, Shared Service and Outsourcing. It was started in 2003. And MSc started in 1996. There is a story behind it. When MSc was first started, we wanted to do the most advanced research and development work in Malaysia, not knowing at the time that in order to be a powerhouse of R&D, you need to have your talent, you need to have your environment, you need to have your infrastructure to support, and we didn't have any one of those. And we used to invite international advisory panel who come to Malaysia to advise our government on what best to do. So a few years into the MSc, advice given was maybe you can start from services. That's how we all started the global business services, and those that we call it SSO. Yes, granted, it only employed 100,000 people or less. That's because we only count the MSc. But if you count the total people employed in the ICT space, I think PIKOM is not here today, but maybe OM can confirm, because Raja is actually from there, that I think they employ more than a million people. It's still not enough, but that is something that we see the progress. But what is the reason why we see that we have not been able to realize our potential? I think that's because while we initial phase 1 and phase 2, we have been focusing a lot on developing the supply side, and then the demand side did not catch up. When I say demand side, I mean all the economy sector by right should be using technology, either ICT or today we call digital, to be more productive, to be more efficient, but the adoption of technology has been very slow in this country. If there's anything we need to do, just like you have a question about how we can change it, I think apart from developing the supply side, the demand side require a lot of push. That's why started about 3-4 years ago, we have started talking about digital transformation, digital adoption. Shareen talked about gig economy. That's one way of changing the way how we treat this entire digital economy. Because digital economy is not just about this few technology company developing solution. It's also not about this 500 to 600 GBS company providing services. When there's not enough usage of technology to drive your productivity, to drive new sources of growth, then our digital economy cannot grow the way we want. The early days, I think we all know about the 7 flagship applications. It started with a good intention, but execution is something that, because also, I don't want to say 100% due to the economic crisis in the year 1997, but it did impact, because you cannot put in the type of resources you need to drive it, because we wanted to use flagship to drive technology development. We also want to drive the adoption. And also drive investment. When you want to try to drive so many things when the environment is not conducive, but we all learn from that. So today, if we have to do it, and if the question is how do we do it from now onwards, we need to make sure that our focus is, if you want people to use technology, you need to prepare them. So anything, talent has to be ready, and we don't do enough of that. And our policy has to be conducive, our regulation has to be conducive for us to drive all those things. Otherwise, there will always be questions behind everything that we are doing. So I know it's a very long answer, but not to defend, but I thought it's good to provide clarity on what happened and what needs to be done to move forward? Thank you.
Okay,
Can
I have
I
my
just add
view.
to what Dato has said? I
Right.
think in terms of infrastructure, policy and all that, we have come a long way. Where the country has lost its way is sustaining it and staying the course and really execute it based on the plans that we've had. I don't think we've done that well enough. And hence we are where we are today because we don't have that, I will be a bit more provocative in terms of what I say, the political willpower to continue to stay the course and execute based on plans and change it and adapt as we move along. We've not done that.
Yes, agree. Maybe from your side, what probably 2 or 3 things that we need to really that can disrupt what we have been doing in the past and really game changing.
So let me go to the part about being proactive and reactive. I think sometimes we are very reactive. It depends on the flavor for the year. And in terms of what we want to drive for the country. I know we are looking at knowledge workers, and now the flavor is all how do we enhance and increase knowledge workers, which is important. But at the same time, for the country to be successful, we need to look at it from an end-to-end perspective. We need to look at the downstream and upstream, right? We have been focusing on the upstream and lesser impact on the downstream, but we just can't just focus on the downstream without even considering the upstream. So I think there was one point of a time the focus was all on the upstream, and now lesser focus on upstream because the flavor is all on the downstream.
Can you just elaborate upstream and downstream for the audience?
So when I talk about, that's just a terminology, upstream and downstream. So when we talk about knowledge workers, people with, who have higher caliber, higher salary, we heard from Dato one Peng, 7, 8, 10, 12,000, right? That is more folks at the downstream, the one who's doing the key roles. But the upstreams are I would say, the entry level, right? Which we were doing really well. We just can't defocus on one and put another and force the whole spectrum to go into the upstream. So we need to have the end-to-end control so that we will be able to build, equip, grow, and then we'll have the readiness for the downstream. So that is important. Secondly is, I do think a lot of the efforts are too spread. Right. For example, talent management. I think we see a lot of, lately we see Panjana is to SOXO, Pekeso, what's happening at HRDF, right? So we're all very confused who to go to.
I think we close them. Would it be a good idea to close some of these agencies?
Yeah, I think you need to have that focus, right? We need to look at what we want to focus for the country, right? And then just have an agency focusing on one. I think that's some agencies, there's overlaps. And that's confusing everyone, right? So that is just my personal point of view.
Okay.
The other last point is, with the fact that we have MIDA, MDEC, many other government agencies who have direct link to the corporate world when they're coming into to the country. Part of the requirement for this investors is we give you all the grants, we give you all the benefits, but you need to commit to actually, quote unquote, adopt, work with 3 or 4 universities. That should be part of the KPI.
Okay.
So
I need to answer is a bit short and quick because probably it's a good idea, answer to one of the recommendations to consolidate all these agencies, rationalize them to make life better for the industry.
Okay. Dato, I'll get to the point straight away. So, I mean, from an industry perspective and a company perspective, I will look at market development. Because you need to be attractive and you need to grow investments. So from that angle, the last 4 months, we were not keeping quiet. So the outsourcing industry in Malaysia connected worldwide. And we formed a GTBSC, Global Technology Business Services Council. Only 12 countries in the world were founding members, and Malaysia is one of them. We are talking about easily 6 million workforce who's driving the GBS business is coming together by virtue of that. Now, that's globally, right? Locally, what did we do? We looked at we are in a hyper-connected world, right? So we need to stay connected with everyone. So we connected with GBS Penang, MDEC, GBS Iskandar, all the local bodies which is from an industry which helps employers. Because if we take care of the employers, they will take care of the employees. Simple formula we used. We started connecting with them and seeing what can be done so that they can thrive in a difficult time, right? So it's working now. Now the second aspect is infrastructure. Now if you need to be ready, we need to have support on the infrastructure. Now where we are and where we need to go, I think all of us know. There's a big gap and we need to close the gap. I'm not saying we need to hyperloop and jump further. I don't think so we can, but we need to close the gap. The last one, as you rightly pointed out, I think there are a lot of initiatives going on the talent side, but I guess employers know what they need. Yeah. Academia knows what they can produce. Yes. I think there has to be an alliance. I call it alliance because if they work together, then you are able to produce what the industry needs, and then we can drive and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question is that, like the banks, and I wear my banker's hat and saying that the COVID has driven digitization of the bank faster than we anticipate, through moving to what we call the contactless economy. When we come to BPO, the last few months, we have seen a rapid adoption of technology, emerging technology, machine learning, RPO, and the social media, cloud computing, many of those are now has been rapidly adopted by BPO around the world, which is as the result of the COVID. This is going to drive a difficult strategy for BPO. The old model is to leverage low labor costs like in India because the arbitrage of the costs. But now you have BPO digitization. Are we ready, in terms of Malaysian BPO on these 5-6 technology of digitization, RPO, machine learning, cybersecurity? All this become a big challenge. How does Malaysian, first at the infrastructure level to respond? Second thing, what is our strategy now to attract, because most of these BPO are FDIs anyway. How do you attract this? Because, you look at business continuity issue because you cannot, rely on one location, you have multi-location. All these changes, how do we leverage this to our advantage? You want to start? Any one of you?
Okay, I'll give it a shot. And I'll just explain from a practical approach. After March 18th, what happened? Actually, 2 days before that, I was in Dubai. I landed on 17th. So thank goodness, if not, I'll be somewhere else. Okay, so we deployed something called the A+, agility, automation, and analytics. And we felt that, of course, this is part of the BCP. And BPO firms or business or captives and non-captives, I think their readiness was there because they already were part of the BCP. If you recall, the entire function of BPO GBS was already part of it. And guess what? The first or the primary mover was banks, Dato. Banks knew that if something happened, it's going to disrupt the entire system and economy. So they were the first and followed by telco, followed by the rest.
Because we are highly regulated.
Exactly. I mean, in a way, the regulation helped. So I would say that all the banks were alert and they moved fast, but I wouldn't say all were able to move right away. The ones which had GBS and BPO functions or the captive shared services were ready to deploy right away. But the ones who did not, of course, had to outsource and then, support the functions as they move forward. So this is a reality check, number one. Moving forward, are we ready for the next BCP? So that's one question and one thought. Number two, from a people perspective, banks were the first to start displacement, reduction of work, right? And then, of course, the rest. I know it's a tough decision they have to make. It's not an easy decision sitting in the boardroom making that, and of course, down all the way through the organization and the society. But the idea right now, BCP 2.0 is how ready are your talent with RPA? Like the one you pointed out, robotic process automation. The next league for BPO. That's the question in terms of automation, are we ready? So readiness-wise, can we utilize either proprietary development of talent or external resources and support? Number three, if we continue to serve our customers, and I think earlier we were talking about KYC and eKYC, it's probably going to be the biggest chunk of activity which the industry has to be ready with, right? Not only just banking, financial services, insurance firms, telecommunication, and across the board. I believe we need to be ready to ensure that we know the customer so that we can cater to the customer. So those are my thoughts, Dato.
Okay, I mean, just to probably you can answer this too, or to earn. We look at the banks today, we are the solution, not the problem, because we basically are savior to the economy because of a heavy regulatory framework. So that the earn, you know, in terms of regulatory framework in BPO, is there any need for us to strengthen the regulatory framework of BPO so that make them more agile, more? For example, they are not even essential services. You know, when there was a lockdown, you know, we in the bank have to get Bank to say these are essential services. Otherwise, you know, we are in trouble. And sometimes we are talking about insourcing because we cannot rely on outsourcing. So my question is that, into Dato' Ong, is that, you know, do we need a new regulatory regime to really drive this transformation of the BPO?
Actually, if you're learning from the experience during the MCO, there was some communication issue where people are not recognizing that you need to, there are certain positions, certain work needs to be done on site, especially when they are not quite ready. But apart from that, I don't really see that the BPO or GBS is actually highly impacted by regulations. But these are the work that is it's quite standard. It's not something that touching things like the financial services where you're highly regulated. These are actually not, these are service-based. But since we are talking about this topic, I would like to say a little bit about our thought. For the past few years, we've been working with industry on how to take advantage of the RPO type of services. And Malaysia should take this opportunity to develop our value proposition. Because Malaysia in the past, if you recall, we can be a good project manager where we don't have enough people. Today, we can still be a very good process designer. When you move into the RPO, we should look at the niche. We have a better project manager, we have a better process engineer, and we should drive the center of excellence for us to help to coexist with the machine, with the AI, to design this expertise. Because even though you move into using more RPO, you still need people to train the system, to design the process, and Malaysia does have an advantage. We need to find our niche, then we can grow our BPO services or GBS services in Malaysia.
Yeah, you know,
that's what I would like to say.
Yeah, you look at Singapore, the EDB is very strong in shaping the behaviors of enterprise to modernize. So why are we not really more aggressive to change the behaviors of, you know, Malaysian companies to be more adoption? But maybe I ask Shareen, you know, in the talent, the issues of talent is not a big issue in the sense that it is always easy to blame the universities that the talent is an easy way out of not doing the right thing. If you look at India, they don't even rely on the universities. They have to train I have visited some of the big you know, office, TT, Tata or Tech Mahindra in India. They are huge, where the industry take the responsibility to train. We are basically, you know, delegating things to the government to train this. You know, what do you feel about this? Maybe, I mean, Shareen can answer this question, but also, Shankar, I want to ask you in your area of life sciences, which is which is the knowledge BPO. How do you work with universities? Because I know I have been in 3 universities, you know, has board or has, you know, assisting them. I see talent inside there, but they have very weak in industry engagement, you know, and you have this, it's not so mishmash, it's about, is they call asymmetry of knowledge. You know, people don't know what's going on there, they don't know what's going on out there. How do we resolve this asymmetry of information? So over to you first, Shareen. You know, a quick answer. You know, a talent management has been established. You know, we see that you know, bringing nation outside. But you as a talent management, you know, what can we do differently? You know, talent is not an issue. You know, it's just certification, micro accreditation. This is new model of building talent. We cannot. You know, I hate to say that Hong Leong is. You know, we have a major innovation lab around 27-story. You know, just in Peng. And when trying to do this, we set up a digital campus. What new things we need to do in building talent rather than the traditional way or too slow of doing this?
I think we need to do a bit more in terms of the talent intelligence part, profiling our talent, really segmenting the type of talent pools that we have, and then find where the gaps are and bring close those gaps. We don't do enough of the talent intelligence part. We think we are investing in programs that's going to be making the talent ready for the workforce, but lo and behold, by the time they're ready, the whole game changes and they're lost. So we need to profile talent at a very early stage where their skills and competency can be developed and can be sort of nurtured, and then the readiness of the sectors. So it's not an easy thing to do, but having a clear sort of way on how we segment the talent is very important. So if you look at the Nordic countries, they already profile and segment their talent from 9 years old in primary school. They know exactly who are going to be the scientists, who are going to be the medical guys, who are going to be the technical guys, because the competency and the propensity, the skills base can be developed based on where the talent, I can't find the word, but where the talent kind of can grow, because they know the profile.
Okay, we are not that intelligent to do this sort of thing. That's what you're saying. Okay, fine.
So I think I would probably concur that I think we lack collaboration. There's a lot of activities going on, but how do we connect the dots, right? Collaboration, meaning to say collaboration from the universities, collaboration from the government agencies, collaboration from the industry partners. It's just going on right now through networks. And it's sad to see that, we have more than 400 multinationals, more than, 100 over GBCs in this country, and we are not collaborating well enough when we have the platform. So we need someone, we need an agency to just put that as a focus. Start that from the early days, and I think that's how we'll be able to achieve.
Don't suggest someone will start a new agency. So, but I think what you were saying, that the current agency are not doing their job.
I think that there's a lot of overlap in what the current agencies are doing. Number two, like I said, it's all going by the flavor of the month. Number three, I also do think that as much as we want knowledge workers, some of the agencies may also need to understand what is actually knowledge workers. It's just doesn't go by salary. Yeah. So we just need to be more broader in our thought process, because sometimes when we deal with agencies, when you tell them IT, Java developers, they get it. When you talk to them about life sciences, they're like, these are not knowledge workers, they are low level, right? So the business acumen skill sets need to be enhanced.
Right, it's not easy to deliver business acumen, but I'm saying that when Standard Chartered started their banking operation, they developed the module and gave to universities to do it. Yeah. Why can't industry do that?
I think, like I said, it's a collaboration. Like I'm committed to, I've been working with at least 3 universities over the last 2 months, dealing with the deans of the respective faculties. We had webinars, with all the first year students. They can ask us anything and anytime, and just don't do that as an event, right? My feedback is do that as part of the curriculum, so that there's always a check and balance. And I think this is so critical, but again, one company just cannot be conquering the issues that we have as a country, right? It has to be a collaborative effort.
Yeah, this is like what outsourcing Malaysia should be doing, isn't it? Are you not doing this?
Yes, Dato. So about 5 years ago, we started a collaboration together with MDEC, with UKM, to jointly deliver the GBS programs. Now, we are now expanded it with Nottingham, and with USM, the discussions are going on. And you're right. Once we test bed it and it works well, we can, deliver this across universally, upskilling everybody automatically. But the most important point I want to highlight is, if we have the current issue at hand, you're talking about 800,000 people who are out there without jobs.
Right.
If you choose one industry that can help accelerate filling them, is closest to GBS.
Yes.
Yep. Am I right, Dato? Yeah. So imagine if you were to accelerate all universities, all institutions right, and employers to come together, not with another agency, please,
Yes.
but with together with an industry aspect. And if they move the needle up there, you're possibly going to ensure that they are re-employed as swiftly as we can and reduce that impact. Because we're not just talking about the 800,000 now. There's 150,000 coming in.
Yeah.
So imagine that's going to add to this pool of people.
Right.
And our idea is we're going to come back to square one after that.
So I hope Dr. Eng is listening, because this is something that we need to do fast, because the future is in industry.
Dato, we are meeting Dato Peng this week.
All right, well, best of luck to you. So what I'm saying is that, we have time now, it's 3:15. And can I ask the Secretariat, are we now, your time now, okay? I just to wrap it up, and first, you end a good note. This is the future of this industry. We just have to scale up faster from 200,000 to maybe 500,000 to 600,000 employees. And really there's a huge opportunity. Second thing, we are not doing enough. We can do things differently. The way we are doing is too slow, and scaling up is a big challenge. We cannot blame the talent management because the talent are there. It's only that, better collaboration, universities, as usual, they're not very proactive. But I'm sure we together, you bring together, collaboration, a single platform, and then we probably can do it better. And lastly, the impact of COVID is a huge thing. I think we are still in the state of self-denial. In terms of figuring out what is going to hit us in the next 2, 3, 4 years. But Malaysia has that window of 3 months to 6 months to do real initiative to really take this opportunity. Things that we have squandered 20 years, we can recover in the next 6 months or 1 year if we do the right thing. So I'd like to thank all of you, all the panel, Dato Eng and Shareen, Shankar and Anthony for this panel, and all of you stay after lunch. So hope it's entertaining, and thank you very much.